Good morning. Welcome to First Edition, the online ministry of First Community Church. My name is Glenn Miles. I'm the senior minister here in this amazing congregation, and we are thrilled that you've joined us today for worship. We want you to know, no matter who you are, where you're from, or where you may be going, or what you believe or don't believe, you are welcomed and accepted here as you are. Right now, there should be a QR code on your screen. Use the camera option on your phone to capture that code, click on the link, and there you can register your attendance with us. You can offer a prayer concern that you may have. You can even make a gift to the offering if you so choose to do so. My sermon title today is If. It's a word that comes from a reading in Mark chapter 1, and the story of a leper who comes to Jesus and says, "If you want to heal me." It's a powerful statement. It's an identifier of who Jesus is going to become and the way his ministry is going to work in and among us. I'm looking forward to sharing this sermon with you. Let's worship God together.
Lost and weary traveler, searching for the way to go. Stranger, heavy-hearted, longing for someone you know. May you find a light. May you find a light. May you find a light to guide you home. There are weary travelers searching everywhere you go. Strangers who are searching, longing deeply to be known. May you find a light. May you find a light. May you find a light to guide you home. May you find a light. May you find a light. May you find a light to guide you home.
word if oftentimes begins a proposal. Here's how it sounds in our house. My wife Julie will come to me and say, if you'll finish the laundry, I'll get dinner going. It's a pretty good deal for me. Sometimes I might say to her on a Saturday when I don't have any requirements here at the church, if you'll make a nice big brunch that we can eat around 10 or 10:30, I'll do all the cleaning and then we can go shopping together out at Easton. Again, not a bad deal for me either. Sometimes it's a way of setting our schedule. If we can do this here, do the other thing, and get this done, if we can get that all done, well, then we'll have time to go out for dinner. Sometimes the word if comes at the beginning of a temptation. The temptation story in Mark chapter 1 is very brief, but in Matthew, we have the full dialogue between Jesus and the devil. By the way, I understand the devil as a metaphor for evil in the world. If you take the devil literally, that's fine with me. We can probably both agree evil exists. The devil takes Jesus on, and he says to him, if you are the Son of God, it's a brilliant way to tempt someone. Basically, the devil is saying, if you are the Son of God, do this amazing thing that will help people. Do you remember what the first temptation is? Turn stones to bread. There are hungry people in the world. Why not do that? The deeper temptation is not about the stones and bread. It's about Jesus becoming something other than who he's called to be. If you say, sometimes the word if begins a challenge. We heard it in the reading from Joy today. If you can heal me, and I know you can, and I know you want to, I know you will. There's a challenge there. This man with leprosy, and by the way, leprosy was a catch-all word in antiquity for any kind of a skin condition that was debilitating. It could be as serious as eczema or boils, or as simple as acne or rough and dry, scaly skin. It was a catch-all word. And it also was a way of identifying people who were marginalized, who were considered other. They were pushed off to the edges. They weren't included in the community. We'll get more into that in a little bit. This man comes to Jesus. It says, if you can heal me, and I know you want to. That's a little more than you heard in the reading, but that's what's implied in the text. It's a challenge before Jesus to be who he is. But if you noticed at the end of the reading, near the end, Jesus said to the man after he heals him, now tell no one. Theologians call that the messianic secret. There seems to be some great reluctance on the part of Jesus here at the beginning of his ministry to go fully public. Oh yeah, if you've read Mark chapter 1, we know that Jesus has been teaching, he's been preaching, he's been healing. That's part of what the man with leprosy is doing. He's saying, I know you're a great teacher, a marvelous preacher, a kind and gracious healer. Now you can take care of me too, can't you? But there's this reluctance on Jesus to go fully public. Maybe you remember the reading from last week. It's just before the text we heard. Jesus' ministry begins in an overwhelming way, and he needs to escape. He needs to go out into the wilderness for some time, for a time of quiet, prayer, meditation, to renew and recharge his life. I'm wondering if that's part of what Jesus wants to do here, is to simply have a few more days before it's time for him to begin. And we can sense a little bit of irritation, a little bit of frustration. Why are you pushing me so hard? You can almost hear that in between the lines. Why are you coming to me now? I can relate. I'm sure Sarah and Jennifer and anyone else who's in the business of ministry or service, caring for others. Sometimes it's tough to be on all the time. Not complaining, trust me. I just had a marvelous 3-month sabbatical where I was off for 90 days. It was great. But sometimes it's tough to be on all the time. Constantly being aware of your presence and the things you're saying, et cetera, and all that sort of thing. You know what the toughest place is for ministers when they want some quiet, just to be alone and not be bothered? Can you guess where that might be? I couldn't hear. An airplane. As soon as you sit on an airplane and somebody says to me, what do you do for a living? I'm very much tempted to say, I'm a brain surgeon, leave me alone. I've never done that. The temptation is still there. Fred Craddock, who is the patron saint of all preachers in my mind, was traveling back to Atlanta from Southern California. He'd been a guest theologian in residence, sort of like our spiritual searcher program, in Loma Linda. Do you know the Loma Linda community? It's primarily Seventh-day Adventist. There's a large, very good hospital there, a large Seventh-day Adventist church, and he'd been invited by the church to come out and be their theologian in residence for a few days. Preached a sermon, then gave a series of lectures. Well, it's the end of that experience. He's on the plane there at the Ontario airport. He's got a direct flight to Atlanta. He's looking forward to a Diet Coke and a few hours to read and relax until he gets home again. The woman sitting next to him, though, says, "Are you from Atlanta?" He said, "No, but I live close by." And then he responded to her, said, Are you from there?" She said, "No, but I'm going to see my grandchildren." "Oh, well, good for you." Then she said, "Well, what were you doing out here in Southern California?" Fred made a mistake. He said, "Well, I'm a preacher, and I've been speaking at the Loma Linda Church." She said, "At the Loma Linda Church, that's Seventh-day Adventist. Are you Seventh-day Adventist?" He said, "No, but they're nice people, and they invited me to speak, and I had a marvelous time. But if you're not Seventh-day Adventist, why would you go to a Seventh-day Adventist church? That doesn't make any sense to me." Well, Fred's starting to get a little irritated with her and a little angry, and he says very directly, "What's your deal? What's going on here?" And she says, "I just don't like it that people are othering so much." "What do you mean by that?" "You know, it's what my preacher preaches on Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. Othering this, othering that." "What's othering?" "Oh, you know, our preacher calls us to go to the other, to the outsider, to the one who's different from us, who has a different religion or different political view or different ideas. And he says that we need to create friendships and relationships where we learn how to work and play with the other. I'm so tired of hearing this stuff week after week. If he preaches on othering this Sunday, I'm just going to stand up and throw up right there in church." And then she says, "But I'm not too worried. It's just a fad. It's going away." Fred said, I don't think it's going away." "Oh, I think it's going away." For example, she pulls out the Sky magazine in the back of the chair, the seat in front of her. Remember we used to have magazines on planes? She opens it up. She says, "Do you see this article here? It's in English." She turns the page. "Do you see this article here? It's in Spanish. Do you see the same article here? It's in Japanese." "That's othering. It's just a fad. It's going away." Fred said, "I don't think it's going away." In fact, this goes all the way back to the beginning of Christianity. "What do you mean?" On the day that Jesus died, Pilate, the governor, put a sign on the cross. The sign said, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." And he said, "Write it in Hebrew, in Latin, and in Greek." Fred says the woman didn't say another word to him throughout the flight. And he hated pulling his Bible card, but he was a little bit irritated, and he just wanted that peace and quiet. You can kind of understand how Jesus is frustrated here. He knows that he's called to the other. He knows that he's called to those on the margin, to those who may have some kind of a skin disease or serious issues going on in their lives, or have been oppressed by the systems of the political and military and religious systems that were oppressing the people in Jesus' day. He knows he's called to challenge all of those things, but he just wants some time. "Could I have some time?" You can almost see him looking up to heaven and saying, "God, please, just a few days before I have to go." I thought of that Fred Craddock story when I saw a footnote in my Bible. If you have a Bible, or if you have an application on your phone for the Bible, look at Mark chapter 1, verse 41. There's a little footnote there. Go down to the bottom of the page, footnote right there on the word pity. Go down to the bottom of the page. It has other ancient manuscripts say anger. That really caught my attention this week. Angry? Jesus was angry? These other manuscripts say that when Jesus saw the man, he was moved with anger. I don't know about you, but I don't want an angry Jesus. When I find myself in the resurrection, I'm going to need Jesus who's full of pity when he sees me. I suspect most of you are in the same boat. If you're not, well, we can talk about that later and see if that's really accurate or not. I don't want an angry Jesus. I want a Jesus who's going to be kind to me, gracious to me, forgiving, merciful. Angry? What's happening here? Well, maybe he really is. Maybe he really is angry. Maybe he's angry that he can't get any time. He can't get any time away. He's about to start the most difficult ministry anyone has ever seen in the history of the world, and he wants to take a few more days. Come on, God, let me have a few more days. Please, just a few more. And we know about this, don't we? We know that sometimes when some major thing is happening in our life or something important or something that's hard to get done, maybe we want a day or two to take off before we tackle it. I mean, this is a simple thing, but in our house, our Christmas decorations stayed up a long time this year. Not long after Christmas, Julie said to me, "Are you ready to take the trees down and the decorations down?" I am. And I said, I'm kind of tired, had a long day. Can we do it later? Okay, fine. A few days later, I said, "Hey, I'm ready to go and take the trees down and the decorations are ready." She said, "Not me today. I've had a long day too. I'm tired." They stayed up longer than normal. I suspect most of us know that story. Sometimes when there are hard things, difficult things to be done, we put them off. We just need a little bit of time and space. After all, Jesus knows. He does know. He is called to this man, to people like this man, kneeling before him, desperately seeking a healing. He knows. He knows he's called to Jerusalem to challenge the powers that be. He knows. He just wants some time. Now, to be clear, when scholars see this, they see other possibilities. But the primary way of understanding a text, when you're translating it, one of the primary ways is to go back to the oldest possible manuscript. The oldest possible then is primary over a more recent manuscript. So they go back to the oldest one and say, what does the oldest one say? It says anger. And then the second principle they often apply is the more difficult translation and message is most likely the accurate one. Somewhere along the way, some scribe saw anger, wrote a new manuscript and put in the word pity. But really, the scholars are clear. Jesus probably did, according to Mark's story, feel anger. And these same scholars also say that Jesus might not be angry with the man. Maybe he's angry with the disease and what the disease is doing to this man and to his life, to his family. I've had conversations like that with many of you, suffering through some circumstance in your life, some disease, some issue that you can't control, and anger is a real emotion. That's possible. It might also be possible that he's angry at the systems that oppress this poor man, that force him to the margins, that keep him away, who think that somehow anybody with a skin issue shouldn't be part of the community. He might be angry about that, sure. There's a third possibility. Maybe it's both. Maybe these ancient texts are reflecting the earliest sense of the story, that Jesus is both moved with anger and compassion, frustration and pity. Maybe he is angry at the man for forcing his hand, for calling him out of quiet, for not letting him take a few more days before he begins his ministry. But then he sees the man and he probably sees tears in his face. He probably realizes in that moment all he wants to do is see his family. All he wants to do is be a part of the community. He wants to be with his friends again. And Jesus forgets the anger and moves with pity. Do you know the story that Jesus tells about two brothers? It's a parable. The father comes to one brother and says to the one brother, I need you to get out and work out on the vineyard today. Got a lot of work going on. Need your help. Need you to oversee some of our workers. Would you please do that? That brother says, well, of course I will. And then he doesn't. The father says to his other brother, would you please go on out and work in the fields today? I need you to work in the vineyard. There's a lot of work that needs to be going on. And that brother becomes angry and frustrated and says, no, you don't ever give me any time off. I'm tired of doing everything you want me to do. And then, after a bit of contemplation, he says to himself, I'll go and work in the vineyards for Dad. I know he needs me today. Jesus then asks his students, which of the brothers obeyed the will of the father? The first or the second? Second, thank you very much. A+ over here. The second one, of course. I wonder when Jesus tells that story if it isn't his own story. I wonder if he was looking to heaven saying, God, there's got to be some other way. Why are you calling me to do this? This is going to be so difficult. And yet he does. He does take on the ministry. But that temptation to not take the hard path, that's with Jesus all the way up until the final night of his life in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he sweats drops of blood and he prays, there's got to be another way. There's got to be another way. Please, God. You can almost hear the sigh in the text. Not my way, but yours. Not my will, God, but yours. And he takes a step toward the cross. Yes, Jesus does eventually go to Jerusalem. Along the way, he loves and heals and preaches and teaches and includes all those folks on the margins, the one that Robert Capon used to call the last, the lost, the least, the little, and the dead. All along the way, he does everything he can to minister to those while challenging the powers that be, while calling them to go back to who they are truly called to be themselves. Maybe you don't think of yourself on the margin or on the edge. Maybe you don't have any scars that are visible. But what about your heart? Have you ever had a broken heart? Has your soul ever been torn? Your mind clouded, confused? Jesus is coming to us as well. Jesus comes to us in this very moment, ready and willing to be there for you. I wonder, do we have the courage and the determination of that man with leprosy to fall on our knees and to say, Lord, I know you want to, and I know you will. I need your help. I need your love. I need your mercy. Do we have the courage? Amen.
Give
Thank